A very good morning, students. Hope you are fine at home. Today we will discuss the consequences of disintegration of Soviet Union, the collapse of bipolarity or second world of the Soviet Union and the communist regime of Eastern Europe had far-reaching effects and implications. These included the end of Cold War. Biggest implication of the collapse of Soviet Union was the end of the Cold War. The ideologically rivalry between socialism and capitalism come to an end. The ideological conflicts had led the evolution of military alliances like NATO, SEATO, and CENTO, led by the USA, and Warsaw Pact, led by the Soviet Union. The end of Cold War made the end of arms race possible and establishing new peace. Second, change in power equation and rise of liberalized capitalism. The collapse of Soviet Union led to a drastic change in the balance of power in the world politics. It further affected the ideas and institutions attached with it. The end of Cold War paved possibility of dominance either by the only 90th superpower USA by a group of countries that no power would dominate. Bipolarity was to be replaced by the either a unipolar world or a multipolar world. USA remained the sole superpower. With the backing of USA, liberalized capitalism became the dominant economic system of the world. Institutions like International Monetary Fund and World Bank, under the dominance of USA, have become chief advisor of all these countries since they gave funds and loans for their diversion to capitalism. Third, emergence of new state. The collapse of Soviet bloc led the emergence of many new countries with their own autonomous choice and aspiration. Many of these states, especially the Baltic and East European states, wanted to join the European Union and North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Along with these states, the Central Asian Republic also wanted to continue their intimate ties with Russia. Shock therapy in post-communist regime. The collapse of communism in these East European and Soviet Union was followed by a painful transition from totalitarian socialist regime to democratic capitalist regime. This model of transition in Russia, Central Asia, and East Europe, influenced by IMF and World Bank, was called shock therapy. In its intensity and speed, shock therapy varied from country to country among the former Second World countries, but its direction and attributes were quite similar. Under the shock therapy, these countries were required to make the total transition from socialism to capitalism. It required rooting out of all structures involved during the Soviet period. Private ownership of property became the dominant pattern of economy. It called for privatization of state assets. Collective farming was to be replaced by private farming and agriculture was to set on capitalist line. These shifts involved either state-controlled socialism or capitalism and ruled out of any other or third way of transition. Shock therapy also clarified change to external arenas of these countries. Development now required more trade, which possible only through the evaluation of free trade. Foreign direct investment and foreign trade regime were two twin engine of change. It necessitated deregulations, opening doors of foreign investment and currency convertibility. Likewise, the shift in economic system also involved a breakup of trade alliance linked to the Soviet bloc. Each state of the bloc is now trying to move closer to the West and get absorbed into the Western capitalist system. The Western capitalist states have now thus become role of models. Their consequences are: first is collapse of industries. The economies of these countries, including that of Russia, were ruined. In Russia, the state-controlled industrial complex collapsed in when 90% of industries were sold to private entrepreneurs. As the restructuring was implemented by market force instead of government, it led the gradual disappearance of entire industries. It was the largest garage sale in the industries. Second, collapse of food security. The value of Russian currency ruble declined considerably. People lost their savings due to inflation. The collective farming system collapsed, leaving people starving for food. The old trading structure collapsed and GDP of Russia went down. Russia had to import food as the food security disintegrated. Social change. The traditional system of social security and welfare of all come to an end. Withdrawal of government security made large section of society poor. Academic and intellectual manpower disintegrated as middle class moved to the periphery of society. Rich started controlling economic activities. The introduction of privatization increased gap between rich and poor in Soviet states. Fourth is bankruptcy. Shock therapy made about the half of Russia. 1,500 banks, financial institutions bankrupt. Due to the money of about 10,000 corporate and private shareholder was lost. Fifth, failure in involved pupils-based government. No adequate attention was paid to development of democratic institutions in this country. Most of the constitution were drafted in a hurry and almost all the country including Russia had strong executive president with a relatively weak parliament. In Central Asia, most presidents enjoy vast executive power and became totalitarian. Here we can say example of Turkestan and Uzbekistan. Here the president got themselves elected a tenure and then increased their tenure for another 10 years. No, thanks. Have a nice day.